Hey everyone. So in this video I wanted to talk about something perhaps a little bit more interesting and controversial, and that's sexuality in Guinea. First, I want to remind you of the context and some of the demographics in Guinea. Guinea is a Muslim majority country. The vast majority of people are Muslim, and the rest are Christian, and then there are a few animists. Both Muslims and Christians, they go to mosque and church almost on a weekly basis. Just like in America, there's sermons. Theirs might actually be, might actually be a little bit longer, uh, just because that's the big event, and at the end of every week, that's when your families will get together and see each other for Friday prayer or for Sunday mass. Um, and so, with that in mind, your expectations as an American, at least my expectations were that Guinea was going to be a very homophobic place. It's on the map not too far away from countries that have very strict laws on the books against Muslims or against gays, and even a few years ago when CNN ran an article about countries with worse laws on the books towards homosexuals than Russia, Guinea was on that list. But what nobody did investigate was whether or not those laws had ever been enforced. And, looking into that deeper and living there for 2 years, I'd say no. Um, there were no prosecutions based on sexuality in Guinea since those laws came about, which were put in place by the French, some 60 years ago. And this is because, so Guinea is not really a homophobic place, and a lot of it has to do with just their history. Guineans were victims of genocide for a very long time, and they learned that if you get into someone else's business, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get in trouble. And so when they hear what people do in their own homes, be it how they raise their kids, how they manage their finances, if there's domestic violence, there's alcoholism, sexuality, they don't care. At least they want to be separate from that. If it's not their house, if it's not their family, they don't want to be involved because that's just not their culture. I also found out that another thing that impressed me was that they don't spend any time thinking about sexuality like Americans do. Americans are programmed to think that when you commit certain acts, like that automatically puts you in a different sexuality. So say, for example, if you're a guy and you've kissed 100 girls, or you've actually done everything with girls and you kiss one guy, um, everyone's going to say, oh, he's gay, or at least he's bi, you know? And Americans get stuck on, attributing single acts to sexuality and making sure that people feel like they're permanently placed in these different ranges. Guineans don't think about that at all. When any sort of act like that happens in Guinea, it's just an act. It's sometimes forgotten about almost as quickly as it happens, and people just move on. There's not really too much thought into it. And so I'll just talk briefly about my own experiences. Um, when I first came to Guinea, my program coordinator, my boss really, he told me that Guinea is one of the easiest countries to be gay in. And this is because Guineans, they show affection differently than Americans. When two friends are together, two guy friends or girlfriends even, when they're walking through a market, they're going to hold hands. They're going to hold hands. When you go to your friend's one-room apartment, because remember, Guineans are typically poor. Most Guineans, if they live in a city, they have a one-room apartment that they share with a good guy friend, and in this one room is just a large bed. So imagine you have two adult men who don't have wives, and they're sharing one large bed. Not only are Guineans holding hands, but they're also cuddling in bed fairly often. I can't remark how many times I walked into a friend's house or where there were already two guys there and they're just on bed. really close to each other, and not sexual cuddling, but just like being very close to each other. Sometimes they're just like massaging each other's arms while they talk about football, or while they talk about the last goal that Messi hit, or something like that. And that's just a normal way of showing affection. So when my program coordinator said that it's very easy to be gay in Guinea, he was saying that guys sleep together all the time. And for us, it's not sexual, but for you, if it is, like, and if you have someone over, like, no one's going to even ask about it because they're going to assume it's just two friends being together. And when that happened to me, when I had friends over and we were actually like really close, sure, my body did react sexually to it, and there were sometimes remarks, but it was never hostile. It was just like, oh, you're getting a little excited here. Let's keep talking about America Life or America movies or something in the market. It's just something that gets passed over very quickly. In the few instances that both of us got a little excited, again, it happened, and to me, like, I start thinking like, oh, is this guy into guys? Is he bi? Whereas for them, it wasn't. It was rarely like that. I think for them, for the Guineans that I had fun with, it was more of a way of showing affection, and there's definitely a difference. A few of them I know are bisexual or gay, but quite a few of them, it's just a way of showing affection. I don't want to make it sound like I had a lot of different experiences, really less than a handful, but just the conversations that I had with people opened my eyes to figuring out how Guineans saw sexuality. My principal told me that he knew a Lebanese couple who had even adopted a son. And these were two guys with a son, and people knew that they were gay. And again, just going off that culture of like not interfering in other people's business, like they never did anything about it. My principal did not like gay marriage. He thought it was too gay. But that was really the extent of hostile comments. If you talk to, again, you're in a Muslim country and you're going to run into a lot of people who if they're familiar with homosexuality, they're going to say comments that are against it. These are typically older people, whereas the vast majority of the younger people, young men and women, they don't think about it. They don't have an opinion of it. One Peace Corps volunteer had remarked about how she had identified a gay guy in her village, and her girlfriends, her friends, I mean, they had said that, oh yeah, I mean, it's actually a girl in a guy's body, and that was their idea about it. And I knew that there was one gay club in Guinea, but the funny thing is, even in clubs in it, like straight clubs, whatever that means, straight clubs in Guinea, guys dance together all the time, and they're dancing really, really close with each other. And again, it's just their culture, their way of showing affection, but they don't attribute the same acts we do to a sexuality because it's just not who they are. In America, if you're a guy and you dance with another guy, everyone's going to say, like, oh, he's gay. Whereas in Guinea, it's actually pretty normal to dance with another guy and be very close with another guy. And again, you just don't think about it. With ladies, I don't know too much about. I didn't have too many lady friends as a Peace Corps volunteer. There weren't too many women in my village who spoke French fluently. And but from what my program coordinator was telling me, he was telling me that there are some women collectives who do get together, and they would just have meetings. But it was he would also see some of them would actually form more serious relationships, and it didn't seem too much hostility towards it. There's definitely a difference between the hostility towards male homosexuality and female homosexuality. I think the Quran specifically bans male homosexuality, whereas it's not so tough on female homosexuality. Um, so if you can take anything away from this video, because I could definitely talk about it a lot more, if you're a Peace Corps volunteer who's gay, lesbian, or bisexual, just know that there have been a ton of volunteers who have gone to Guinea who have been different sexualities. They've done well. They've formed relationships. They survived. I mean, I didn't go to Guinea looking for a relationship like that. I went to just help people. I definitely had some experiences on the side that if you want to message me privately about, I can talk more about. There were a few Guineans who knew about me. My police commissioner knew. A few of my older students who were actually older than me, they knew too. And even a few of my friends, just because they had seen me out or I'd given them a chance to ask a lot of questions, and I tried to be as honest as I could. This isn't to say that if you go to Guinea, should you be actively telling people within 5 minutes of meeting them? No. I mean, your sexuality is very personal, as it is for everyone. It should be shared with people who you have a high level of trust, whose reactions you can anticipate very well. Again, your safety is your highest concern, but also, secrecy in a lot of cases is in your best interest too. So that concludes this video, just talking about sexuality for some aspects. I think I'll talk more about it in another video later. If you guys want to ask me any specific questions, please reach out to me. All right, take care.